Sarah, it seems like our numbers have topped off a little low, but we'll get started. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Oh, that's me. As I said, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Lucas Meek. I'm a customer success manager based in the California Bay Area. Today, I also have with me Sarah, who is a customer success manager from New York. We will be leading the webinar, and then for support, we have a customer success manager from Georgia, Kayla, and she will be answering questions in the Q&A box as much as possible, providing links, and then making sure to stop Sarah and I from rambling if there are teacher questions along the way. As I said, please use the Q&A option rather than chat so that we can make sure you get your questions in an organized fashion. And away we go.
And Lucas and I were both middle school teachers. So if you have any questions about how to actually teach in the classroom, we can also help you with that.
Okay, so the objectives for today, by the end of today's webinar, you should be able to create a CodeHS course and section, configure your course settings for the first day of school, make sure that you limit what students can see, what the grading is going to be, things like that, track student progress and grade assignments, utilize CodeHS resources for the day-to-day teaching world, and know where to go for support.
So now we'll take you into the CodeHS website. The first place that you'll want to go is into the course catalog, and that's where you'll choose which course you want to teach. You may or may not have chosen your course already. If you're interested in learning more about how you can choose which course is perfect for you, we actually just ran a webinar on that exactly, and we have it recorded and can send that to you following this webinar as well. In the course catalog is where you'll be able to view all of our material. You can look at the syllabus. You can plan out your year that way. You can also enroll as a student and assign any of these to your courses or add it as one of your courses. So once you're on the CodeHS website, the first place you want to go, in a kind of new way that we have if you're new or if you're returning to CodeHS to create your sections, is to go into your courses. And that'll be on the left-hand side of the screen. This will show you all of the courses that you've ever used and any course that you want to create. So you can create a course up here. The nice thing about creating a course rather than going into creating the section is that you can then use that course that you create to apply to multiple sections that you have. So if you want to make edits and customize your course the way that you see fit and you think that's perfect, you can then assign it to multiple sections. And you can do that by clicking this button here to create a new section using that course. You can also share your course with other teachers at your school. So if you've created the perfect course and you're thinking, hey, I really think these other teachers would love this, you can do that as well. And the way you'll create your course is by creating a name for it, click Create New Course, and then you can start from scratch. So that's on the bottom here. You can create an empty course and pull from any of our CodeHS resources, or you can actually choose one of the templates that you saw in the course catalog. So you can search for whichever course that you'd like to add. If you have any questions about adding courses or setting up your sections, please feel free to write those in the Q&A now.
Okay, no questions currently. So once you've created a course, this is the screen that you will see. You can see at the top of the page here, this is where I will do the navigation for the demo today. However, many of these options are available on the left, and all of them are going to be available in the toolbox, my sections, or my courses. We are on the assignment page. The roster page is exactly what it sounds like. That's your classroom roster. That's where you can look at attendance. That's where you can make announcements, see individual student progress, things like that. The assignment page that we are on currently is where we can come to customize curriculum. You can see here I have my Period 1 JavaScript course. It starts with a module called Programming with Carol, then a module Carol Challenges, JavaScript and Graphics, etc. If I click on an individual module, I see each lesson. And if I click on an individual lesson, I see each activity. This is a pretty standard activity flow here: video, quiz, example, and somewhere between 1 and 3 exercises. Interestingly, my course, they have a little bit of experience, so I'm actually going to start with JavaScript and graphics before I move into my Carol challenges. So on the right-hand side here, we have this edit button. And I'm going to go ahead and click edit, and that's going to allow me to move this whole module up. So now, if I click done, we can see my new unit flow is JavaScript and graphics, programming with Carol, Carol challenges, and then JavaScript control structures. As I said, I actually am not going to teach this programming with Carol unit. So I'm going to go ahead, and on the right-hand side, we have this ellipses button. We'll click that. We see quite a few options: preview, copy, remove, add a new lesson, and move down. So I can move it down just like I did via this edit button. But what I actually want to do is remove. And when you click that, it says, are you sure you want to delete this module? Because this is deleting. This is not unassigning. This is not locking via access controls, anything like that. This is deleting. But yes, I do want to delete this module. Now I have my course flow here. We're going to start with JavaScript and graphics. We're going to move to Carol challenges, and then we're going to move to JavaScript control structures. So I've deleted a lesson, that Intro to Programming with Carol. I've moved a lesson. I moved JavaScript and graphics. And now what I actually want to do is I'm going to add a lesson from, or add a module from another CodeHS course, and then create a custom module as well. So if we scroll down to the bottom of the page here, we see search for content. The first recommendations that we make are supplemental materials. These are maybe modules that were in prior Intro to JavaScript courses, or that we couldn't fit into a year-long course, or again, maybe additional examples here. Other quiz questions. Here's a midterm that not all teachers may want to give, so we don't put it in that course. Additional demo problems, etc. So I actually, because I removed that Intro to JavaScript module, I have a little bit more time, and we're going to do this project tic-tac-toe. So I'm going to click assign, and then it asks me which section I want it to be in, and I want it to be in my section that's called Mr.'s Demo section. I'm going to go ahead and assign that. When we go back to the course, we can see Project Tic-Tac-Toe is added to the bottom here. I don't want it after the final exam. I actually want it before Project Breakout. And actually, it doesn't need as much animation and games control, so I'm going to put it above animation and games. So we can click Edit, and we'll grab this Project Tic-Tac-Toe, and we're going to move it right there after JavaScript and graphics challenges, but before animation and games, and we'll click Done. This project, again, isn't going to show that it's students, it's from a different course, or that it's supplemental material or anything like that. Students will think this is their course flow, and in fact it is. So the other thing that we can do here is I want to add a new lesson to this Project Tic-Tac-Toe module. So we can see module Project Tic-Tac-Toe, the lesson Tic-Tac-Toe, and then each activity within that, part 1, part 2, the full game, and then you earn a badge. But I'm going to add a new assignment here. So we can click Add New Assignment. And it takes us to this flow here. When you add a new assignment, you can add any sort of assignment that already exists on CodeHS. So a coding exercise, which is an open-ended sandbox style kind of project. I would call that like tic-tac-toe. This isn't going to have auto graders. It's just build a project. A practice problem is going to be one of those smaller activity types that has auto graders, and you're going to be able to set, did a student do A, B, and C before they're able to click continue and move forward. You can embed a video. So maybe there's a video that you like from another website or heck that you've created yourself. You can embed a video directly into CodeHS. It'll appear in the gradebook. It'll appear in your curriculum flow. You'll be able to toggle the grading settings, course settings, etc. An article, again, that's just a URL from another website. Notes, maybe this is notes that you've written up. But what I'm going to go ahead and add is a free response. So this is create a free response prompt for your students to respond to. So what's the title of this? Tic-tac-toe reflection. What is the prompt? Let's see. Ignoring my spelling errors. So we've typed out our title, our prompt. You can see we can change some of the text options here, but we're just going to go ahead and click save and continue. I want to assign this to all sections of my current course. I'm not going to set a due date or points in the grading gradebook, anything like that. So we'll go ahead and click save and finish. And just like that, I created my own CodeHS activity in a CodeHS module within my CodeHS course. So we have really customized this course here with different modules, a different course flow, and created our own courses. Let's say we find ourselves in a situation where some of our students are racing ahead. They're getting so much work done. Rather than continuing to assign the whole class more curriculum, we have this practice option up here, and this would allow you to, again, you can see here, we have quite a few different languages to choose from. And if you just tell students to come here to JavaScript practice, there are just additional problems here for students to do. This is outside of your curriculum flow. This is outside of the gradebook. These are just additional problems for a student to continue to hone their skills. So that's our assignment page. It's big, it has a lot going on, but this really allows you to customize the course that you are teaching to best fit you and your students. Are there any questions about the assignments page? Okay, works for me.
Okay, so now that you have customized your course, you know exactly what you want your students to complete. Right now, on the first day of school, my students could, in theory, go to the final exam and just take it because everything is currently available to all of my students. So what you'll want to do before setting your students up with the course is go into your course settings where you'll be able to lock down some of these activities. So the first place that I want to take you is the access controls. Access controls allows you to decide whether or not students have access to each module, each lesson, or each activity. So right now, like I stated, I don't want my students to be able to access the final exam on day one. So I might go to the final exam and click locked. So now students will see that it's an assignment for them in the future, but they can't actually access it. Something else I could do if I know exactly when I'm giving this final exam is I can also schedule it. So I can pick the date and time as to when it will be available to them. Let's say it's on Wednesday, September 30th, and my class runs from 12 p.m. I can allow them to access it then. And if I want them not to be able to access it after the end of class, I can also pick what time my class ends. It is optional to put an end time. Just note that if you do put an end time, that the students won't be able to access it afterwards. You can do this for all of your sections, or you can do this by individual section. So if your classes are at different times, you might want to do that on an individual section basis. So again, for access controls, these are assignments. If you set any of them to be locked, your students will be able to see that they'll be there in the future, that they will complete them in the future, but they won't be able to access them. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to write that in the Q&A. And then the other option for locking down course materials is assigned. Is assigned will not allow your students to see any of these materials. So currently, all of my modules are assigned, so my students can see all of them. We locked down the final exam so they can't actually access it. But if I wanted to, I could just completely unassign it, and my students will no longer even see it as an option in their assignments page. This is a good option, and you can do this on the module level, lesson level, or activity level. Let's say you know that you're gonna do your first Carol program as a class, so you don't want students seeing it at all. You just want it to be something that you have control over. You can unassign that. And this is something that I only have one section right now, but you'll do it on a per section level as well. So differences, again, between access controls and is assigned. Access controls will lock access, but students will be able to see the assignments. And is assigned, students will not be able to see the assignments if anything is unassigned. So some teachers like to, at the beginning of the year, just unassign multiple modules because they don't want students to be overwhelmed. So I might just unassign the project and some of the bottom modules. You can also keep them all there. And the is assigned and access controls can also be changed on a per student level. So if that's something that you're interested in looking at, that would be found on your roster page. And we can show you that later on if you have a question about seeing that. Another course setting that you'll want to look into is your grading settings. Grading settings, the way that grading works on CodeHS is there's an auto grader, and there's also the ability to have an assignment be teacher graded or be graded by you. So right now it looks like majority of my assignments are set to be auto graded. What that means is if the student passes all of the test cases in their code editor, they will receive full credit that will be finalized in the gradebook. So you can see in Carol Challenges, it looks like all of these are set to be auto graded. So right now, if a student passes all the test cases, it will go to full credit in the gradebook. However, sometimes you don't want to leave it all to the computer. We might, as teachers, want to review some code before it goes through. Maybe you have specific expectations in your classroom. For example, if you decide that you want all of your students using comments, that's not something that our auto grader will always check for. So if I made that a rule, I want all of my students, especially on this challenge fetch problem, to be to make sure that students were using comments. I might set this to teacher graded so that I know now I have to go in and grade that myself. And if you set anything to be teacher graded, that will then show up for you in your review tab, where Lucas is going to talk a little bit more about how you can grade those assignments. So if you have any questions about the course settings, please feel free to write that in the Q&A.
Yeah, and we'll wait a moment to see if there are any questions there. Okay, easy enough. So we talked about our assignments page where we're going to go to customize curriculum. That's this page here where you can see each module, lesson, and activity. We've talked about the course settings where we have access controls where you can lock activities from student access. They see a page that says you don't currently have access to this, where you can unassign things from them entirely. Grading settings is the decision between who's grading this. The CodeHS test case is an auto grader or the teacher grade. And then some straightforward course settings like due dates, whether they can use copy and paste, if you want to shuffle the quiz question order and answer order, and so on. So we are now on our review page. This is where you can come to grade many of those lessons that you decide are going to be teacher graded. The first thing you see on this review tab is help mode. This is where students have asked a question that they, again, need further assistance on. This is probably an instance in the classroom where they would just raise their hands and say, you know, can you help me? But we are not in a classroom, or many of us are not in a classroom. So this is a great place for you to communicate with your students. You can see who submitted a question, what activity they were on when they submitted that question, the time, and their actual question. You know, Mia actually reached out to me during class, and we had a Zoom call, and I resolved this issue. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of that. But I do know that Oliver's question is very pressing, and we need to answer that. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to click directly on Oliver's question. Open that up in a new tab. And it doesn't want to take me to Oliver's code, which is great. Sorry, guys, just a moment. Okay, okay, Sarah, do you want to show that?
I got mine up, so you can talk through it and I'll open it up. I was able to click right into
So we have Emma's question here. We can see when that loads, that actually takes us to Emma's code editor. So when this loads, we can see Emma's code. On the right-hand side, we have the options to run code. So we can run Emma's code. We can look at the test cases to see what the student is actually being required to do in order to earn credit for this. The assignments tab is going to show us what the instructions are. The docs tab is just a look at all the things the student has learned thus far. We have that grading tab, so we can actually grade directly from this page as well. But then under more is where we see that conversation tab. So from here, we can see that Emma said, I don't get it, can you help? And we can respond directly to Emma. This is going to go back to Emma's main student page, as well as when Emma comes back to 1.4.4 pancakes, she will see our response. So we should probably type something clarifying, that Emma needs to use comments, and maybe asking what Emma needs help with, because in true student fashion, this is not terribly helpful. So we can send this directly to Emma. Again, that's going to show on Emma's main student assignment page, as well as when she comes back here to 1.4.4 pancakes. So Sarah, if you can take us back to the grading or review queue. Wonderful. So we know that we've answered Emma's question, and if we refresh that, that would disappear because we've answered Emma's question. But the next thing we're going to do is actually grade some student work. So under course settings, I assigned which assignments I want to grade as the teacher, and they have come here to the student submission queue. So we're going to open Fast Grade. And this is an awesome page. What we see on the far right-hand side is the CodeHS recommended solution code. So this is how you solve the activity that's been assigned. And if there's maybe one or two variations of how to do that, we will present that here as well. In the middle, we see the student code. So what did the student actually submit to me, the teacher, to be graded? And then on the left-hand side, we have kind of our student information. We can see this was submitted by Mason Wilson. The assignment that's been submitted is called Short Stack, which section they're in. So this is helpful if you have section 1 and section 2 and section 3, or period 1, 2, 3 rather. what date it was submitted on. You can see there, if you hover over that clock, you can see how long was spent. This is helpful for, again, the high numbers, the low numbers, to try to understand how long a student spent on this activity. And then you have the options to award full credit, give a 0 and finalize. Finalize with any number. So we could give a 4 out of 6 and say, nice work, Mason, and move on. Or we can give a 4 out of 6 and say, this needs work. So that would be, yeah, maybe, can you leave comments, Mason? And then we can mark that pink needs work. And we can see now that we only have 19 things left and 1 has been submitted. This immediately pulled up Beyonce's work, and we can see Beyonce's work. That looks, you know, the solution code matches the student code perfectly. So we're just gonna say finalize. That's gonna give, or rather we're gonna say award full credit. That's going to give the student a 6 out of 6 and finalize that work. You can see that there's some different colors going on here. That is the CodeHS kind of grading scheme. That's something you and your students will become familiar with, and I will touch on more in a moment. But we can see here, you know, it pulled up Dirk's work after we said that Beyonce earned full credit. And we actually, you know, maybe this is a 4 out of, or a 2 out of 6. It doesn't look like Dirk has actually fully completed this. So we'll give him a 2 out of 6 and say needs work. And then Noah's work pulls up. And you can see that this is just going to, you know, these are all short stack submissions, but this is actually arranged by the time that students complete their work. So if, you know, maybe the next student had completed a different activity before Noah completed his short stack, it's going to show that based on submission time. And you can filter and order out those activities if you would like. But that is Fast Grade using the CodeHS Review tab. And if we have any questions on that, we can go ahead and ask them now. Okay, easy enough.
All right, so the next place, once you've graded your assignments, you'll want to look is the gradebook. So I've pulled that up over here. And Lucas mentioned a little bit about the color key. The way that it works is this dark green color is anything that's been finalized by either you or the auto grader. The light pink color is an assignment that's been reviewed but marked as needs work. So you saw that Lucas marked some assignments as needs work. That will indicate to the student that they should resubmit their assignment. And then once it's resubmitted, you will then be prompted to regrade it. Once a student has resubmitted that assignment that was marked needs work, it will show up as this dark pink color, which means that it's been submitted after review. The light green color means that an assignment has been submitted and it is awaiting a grade from you. So these are any of the assignments that you chose to be teacher graded. So one of those was short stack. You can see that all of these are light green below. That means that it's waiting on you to grade it. So you can actually click right into short stack if you want to grade that because you know that it needs grading here. The yellow color means that an assignment has not been submitted, but it has been opened by your student. So you can see over here, Mason has opened this assignment and hasn't submitted it. That might be an indicator for you. Okay, let me go in there and see how long he spent on that assignment, if I need to intervene at all in this situation. And then gray means that it just has not been opened at all. You'll also see that some of these say NA, that's your first Carol program, and that's actually because earlier when I was in my is assigned settings, I unassigned this for everyone. So there won't be a grade here. If I'd like, there are a bunch of ways that you can configure your gradebook. The first way is you can click edit over here. And a few things you can do here. One, I unassigned this, your first Carol program. And if I know I never want my students to complete it because we did it as a class, I might just X that out and remove it from the gradebook. Just make sure you're sure you want to remove it when you do that. Then the other option I have here is I can actually change the maximum point value of any of these assignments. So here you'll see under more basic Carroll quiz, it was out of 4. On Pyramid of Carroll, it was out of 9. Some of them I marked needs work and gave an 8, but maybe I want this one to be out of 30 points. I can click 30, click away, and then all of my grades will now change to reconfigure to fit with the score that you made it out of. Maybe I don't want bullet points, so I can, when I'm still under this edit, I can change to just 26, and I can do that for all of these as well. And you can do this for any of your assignments. You can change them right here in line. I'd also clicked short stack before because I knew I need to grade this. So I can go and, oh, sorry, I guess I did not click that. So I can click short stack here. And Zoom is blocking my tabs. Okay, there it was, grades section. So now you are just grading this one assignment. You can change the status of it, whether it's finalized or maybe you actually want to make it reviewed so the student knows they need to go back in and change it. And you can grade directly from here, go to fast grade, or you can give full credit to everyone if there might be a reason why you would do that, or reset student code from here as well. Some other things you can do in here, you can actually go, if you click into any of these boxes, you can go directly into any student's code, which is pretty awesome. You can also configure your gradebook in a bunch of different ways. You can choose what you want to include. So some teachers don't like to include videos. Let's say you watch the videos as a class, your students won't actually have progress on the videos. So maybe you want to remove that. You can choose whether or not you want to include badges, free responses, anything like that, and you can really choose what's displayed. Then if you set due dates for your students, which is also found in your course settings, you can choose to have the option of showing late flags on these assignments. This is pretty cool because it's just a great indicator for you. You'll see a little red flag in your gradebook to indicate that a student has submitted something late. You can choose whether or not your students can view their grade report. And then another option for the due dates is if a student submits an assignment late, you might want just all assignments to be finalized to 0. And that's something that you can choose later on too. It can be done retroactively, but you can have it so that all student assignments that have been submitted late are finalized to 0. And that will just indicate to them like, okay, it's actually impacting my grade. I should probably go in and fix that. And then you can configure your grading calculations as well. I know we spoke a little bit about the course settings earlier. I forgot to mention the due date settings, but it is exactly what it sounds like. And if you do choose to set due dates for any of your classes, then they will show up with that red flag in this gradebook. The gradebook is really just a great bird's eye view of how your students are doing, and you can use it to really look around, see if there's anything that you've missed, any students who haven't been submitting things and you really should check in on them. You can view all modules, or you can view it by specific modules as well. So whichever you think will be most beneficial for your students is what you should do there. So if we have any questions on the gradebook, feel free to write them in the Q&A now.
We did have one question about cybersecurity and our practice problems specifically. While that's a little bit off topic, I will just say there's probably between 50 and 75 practice problems in that cybersecurity course. There's decoding ciphers, creating ciphers, protecting websites, breaking into websites. It's a full cybersecurity course, and we actually have 2 years of cybersecurity. So it's a little bit difficult to just discuss what kind of practice problems are available in cybersecurity. But if you look at that course specifically, again, it is a very thorough course set up to be actually 2 full years. So there's going to be ciphers, there's code breaking, there's both protection and kind of breaking down protection. There's ethics behind hacking. Again, it's a full year course at this point. So what we've discussed so far, we have the assignments page where we're going to customize that curriculum. We have course settings where we can really control what students have access to at any given time, right? Grading settings, access controls is assigned, as well as some of those simpler copy paste prevention, shuffling quiz questions, and so on. We've touched on the review queue where we can actually go to answer student help questions and grade student work. And then the gradebook where, again, we can grade student work, we can customize a little bit in line. And now we're going to touch on one of the last tabs here, progress. So you can see that progress is available per module. So that's going to show what percentage is a student done with JavaScript and graphics. We have per lesson. So that's going to show what, how complete is a student on 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and so on. And then we have per assignment. And this is the most granular look at the CodeHS material. Let's pick JavaScript or the Carroll challenges. So this is a pretty simple, there's only 7 challenges that we can look at. We are looking at just one module, the Carroll challenges module. And we can see that Ava has finalized fetch. So we're using that same color scheme that we saw in the gradebook, where gray is something that's unopened. Yellow is something that a student has opened but not submitted. Light green is that's waiting to be graded by me, the teacher. Pink is something that you've looked at as the teacher and have sent back to the student. The ball's in their court. This dark red maroon color is something that you sent to a student for them to review again, and they have sent back to you. That's ball in your court. You need to grade. And then this dark green is finalized. So we can see here, it looks like Ava has opened quite a few of our Carroll challenges, but hasn't submitted. So it might be worth clicking into that specific activity and pulling that up, you know, to go take a look at why Ava has opened so many activities, as well as Mia, it looks like, has opened quite a few activities, but has not completed those. And you could go directly to the student page and maybe we, you know, yeah, this is missing comments, as we can see. And we could follow up with, thanks for adding comments, but let's, you know, try to move, let's try to complete this before moving to a new activity, something of that sort. One other awesome option under progress is time tracking. So at the bottom of the page here, we see time tracking. And this shows us how long a student has spent on a particular activity. This is really helpful, I think, for both looking at small numbers and looking at those really large numbers. Looks like Ava spent 30 seconds on running speed, while some other students, you know, Emma spent 3 minutes and 45 seconds. You know your students better than anyone, but you should know, you know, which seems maybe out of place, what seems normal. Is there a really big number in here? Let's see. Not so much, but you'll see at times, you know, maybe 18 minutes when others spent 2. That's a good opportunity for you to say, you know, we can pull up Harper's code. Let's say this says 18 minutes. We can pull up that student's code and maybe look at what issues we're having. Under More, you have the History tab, and you can actually see each time a student has run their code. I'm in a demo section with made up students and made up work. so there's no history here, but you will see each instance that a student runs their code or clicks save, that you can go ahead and look at and kind of see their growth, see how their thought process of completing that code. So from, again, we were under progress, we see assignments, that's the most granular, up to modules, that's the, again, it's just going to show percentages, how far are they through module 1, module 2, module 3, etc. You can look at just quiz scores, and you can see time tracking. Time tracking is really helpful. It shows, you know, that same color-coded key. Looks like Emma has spent, you know, 3 minutes and 50 seconds here, and it's not complete. The ball is still in her court to complete that activity, all the way to, you know, the dark green, well within average time here. Looks like this is you know, not an issue at all. So we have now touched on the roster page where you can see each student, the assignments page where you can customize that curriculum, the progress tab where you can look at students' progress throughout the day or week, the review tab where you actually go to grade student work, the gradebook tab where you can go to customize that gradebook, you can do grading, you can filter and maneuver that gradebook to better fit your needs, and then course settings where you can actually go to lock down student work, decide what you want to grade versus what the CodeHS auto grader is going to grade, change due dates, and again, some of those cheat protection things like block text or copy paste. And finally, under the More tab, and also always available at the top of every page, is the toolbox. There's quite a bit of functionality here. Truly, there's all of our site functionality here. But you can see with some of the organization that there's the code review. You can see this would take you straight to FastGrade. This would take you to that grading dashboard that we saw, right? This is our grading dashboard that we saw. Do I have the toolbox pulled up somewhere? There we go. You can look at progress per activity, per lesson, or per module. You can look at or set access controls, due dates. We also present you with lots of data because it's computer science and data is important. So you can see attendance or login history. That's both available on the roster page. It's also available here in the toolbox. If you're interested in creating an activity like we showed under the assignment tab, you can also do that here under create. But a really powerful tool here is the lesson plans. So I'm going to go ahead and open that lesson plan. You can see that there's a lesson plan for each assignment that you have assigned. And when you open a lesson plan, you can see what each one offers. So there's always going to be objectives for the day. Students will be able to SWABAT. There's what activities are in that specific lesson. So you can see this is a video example or video quiz example, exercise, and a badge. There's always a solution reference. So you as the teacher do not always have to have the answer. We can provide it to you so that you can help students along while not getting bogged down and finding that answer yourself. And then there's what vocabulary is used in our video that you can then use or expect students to know after completing this lesson. There's also some offline work. We have handouts available. You know, these are often better utilized in a classroom, but we do have handouts available. And all of our work comes from a variety of different textbooks, and you can see that textbook resource right here. Now, I love these teaching and learning strategies. CodeHS, you know, is a wonderful resource, and then it doesn't require you to be that sage on the stage. You are not, you know, responsible for an entire class period's lesson plan and coursework, things like that. But we don't need CodeHS to be the only thing students are doing. So we provide some additional activities that you as the teacher can run. There's lesson closers. These are things that are not included in the actual CodeHS lesson format. They could complete the handout. You could have an end of class discussion, things like that. There's additional activities that aren't included in the CodeHS course flow as well. And we don't do lesson openers, but when I was in the classroom, I always loved to do those. So that's available, as well as, again, here's some additional discussion questions and modifications, both for those advanced students where I already talked about practice, but there's always going to be some advanced modifications that you can make, as well as modifications for potentially some of your lower students or students with special needs. So additional resources here for everyone. And just because we're in the world of education, there's always standards that all of our lessons are going to apply to as well. So you can see pretty thorough lesson plans here, and a lesson plan is available for all lessons on CodeHS. You can click this right-hand arrow, and it's going to take us to lesson 1.4, and again to lesson 1.5. So that is available in the toolbox, as well as under the More tab. You can see data, support, how to get to the code review tabs, things that you've recently visited. And then again, under resources, you have awesome things like just the handouts, just the solutions, just lesson plans, and so on. So that is our demo on one large website. I do understand, but I hope you feel a little bit better in kicking the year off successfully.
We did have some questions about, I had a question about monitoring quiz scores, and that's a great question. Lucas went through this progress. It will say progress until you click any of the ways that you're viewing progress by. So I clicked quiz scores, and right now I can currently see a heat map. I can change that to the %. So now I can compare how my students are doing. Maybe it looks like on this top-down design one, some of them got 100, some of them only got half credit. Someone got a 0 on this quiz. So I can, one of the really cool things that you can do is also click into each assignment directly from this page. So if you want to know, okay, this student got a 50% and this student got a 50%. Let's see, did they get the same questions wrong? And is this something I need to discuss further in class? So looks like they did. So maybe why do we use functions is something that I want to go over a little bit more in class. So hopefully that answers that question. And it was also asked if you could compare those quiz scores in the gradebook. And the best way to do that is just looking, you'll see that it says quiz under all of the quizzes, and you can see what each student received on those quizzes. And you can also click directly into their assignment here as well. So feel free to continue writing questions as well. As we're going through those, I will point out some of the ways that you can go for help. So you've probably seen and or maybe used this little blue button on the bottom right of the screen. This is, we have an awesome support team who is growing every day, who is very excited to receive your support questions, and they will answer pretty quickly. One piece of advice I would give is to always include screenshots or links. So right now, if there's something going on in my gradebook, maybe it looks like a grade is incorrect, I can take this link and put it directly into this little chat box. And then the support member who receives your email, your message, will be able to see exactly what you see. So they will see your gradebook. Or if you're on a specific student's code editor, they will be able to see that student's code editor. So that's really helpful. And then also in your toolbox, you have under support the knowledge base, which is essentially like a Google for CodeHS. So anything you want to learn more about, let's say you want to learn about the gradebook, you can search gradebook, and then you'll find out everything you need to know, whether it's editing grades, customizing, removing an assignment, really anything you need to know can be found here. for by our awesome support team. A couple other questions we got were, one was about the is assigned settings and all the course settings that we went through earlier. These are limited to if you have a pro plan. So you'll have to go through and kind of see what types of things that you can set up and cannot. So is assigned and access controls will be, if you are, will only be accessible on the pro plan, but some of the things Lucas did, like customizing, moving around modules and adding assignments and things like that, those are all available on the free plan. Just some other things to mention. We know that this has been a crazy year. We are very excited to work with you, and we're really happy that we have this platform to work with you on and that it is easily accessible for students. One thing that we should not forget about is engaging the students and making sure that they know that we're here for them. So some of the things that you can do in that sense is, if you go into your roster page, there you can award badges. So something that I love to do as a teacher was come up with an MVP or student of the month, or just give badges when you feel like it. Students don't see each other's badges. They'll only see what they get on their homepage. And it's really exciting for them to just see, like, oh, hey, I'm the MVP for the day, or I'm the coder of this week, which is really cool. So we don't forget that this is a stressful time for you, and we are definitely here for you. And we know that this is a stressful time for kids too. So we are here to do anything in our power to help you. And we're very excited to work with you and make sure that you're set up for a successful school year. We will also be sending out this slideshow that we created, which goes through everything that we talked about, some do's and don'ts of teaching with CodeHS, and also includes direct links. So this one says, do monitor student progress. So this link will take you directly to instructions on how to do that. And we have do's and don'ts for grading, leveraging the lesson plans, celebrating success, which is what we were just mentioning, and going for support on CodeHS. So again, don't think you're on your own. We have an entire team dedicated to supporting you. We are some of those team members, and we're really excited to work with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can really second what Sarah said, and I think we are all aware, as most of us have been classroom teachers, that this is a fun but very difficult year to get started with. CodeHS is here to help. We are not a one and done curriculum resource. We are curriculum support. We are platform support. We're here to bounce ideas off of, maybe when to utilize the gradebook, when to customize curriculum, when to change individual student settings. All of that is things that we're happy to talk about and things that we're excited to talk about. We will stick around for a few minutes to answer any questions that come up, but we will send our do's and don'ts slideshow and this webinar recording out after. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your Tuesday to meet with us, and we hope you have a great year. Okay, looks like our questions have calmed a little bit. We will go ahead and close it out. Again, please don't hesitate.
One that might have just come in as you said that. Someone said, when might you as a teacher give students the option to retake a quiz? Tricky question, in my opinion, just because we do give the answers to the quiz right after the students take them. So they will see what the answers are. However, it is a good idea if students do request to retake a quiz, if they've been studying, working, that could be an option for you. But typically students or teachers don't give the option to retake, but I do know plenty of teachers who do, because they know that their students are interested in learning more.
Yeah, absolutely. So CodeHS is really about options and about customization. So we've created a platform that allows you to make the decisions. When to retake a quiz, is something that you can talk to your CSM about. I think there's definitely pros and cons to both. And that's something, again, I think that you'll begin to understand as you go through the curriculum. Are quizzes about knowledge checks, or are quizzes about testing students? And again, every classroom is different, and every class is gonna have different needs.
And someone also mentioned that the student sometimes gets the screen with the dog that says CodeHS can't be found. If that happens, that is a great way or a great opportunity to use our chat feature, where you can write in and say, hey, this student for some reason is not able to reach this page. I can't say right now if they're doing something wrong, or if it's a Wi-Fi issue, or if it's something with the site, but it will be really helpful if you do send maybe a link to that student's activity so that we can see directly what they're seeing and see what we can do to fix it. But I'm sorry that that's been happening, and hopefully we will get that fixed shortly.
Okay, thanks so much and have a great day.